Well, we have some pretty big news, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be playing week 4 due to the concussion. Now, I think that we still start Devontae Adams no matter what. I mean, Adams has proven his entire NFL career at this point that the man will produce regardless of who is in there at quarterback. Now, Deshaun Watson is expected to play in week 4. This is going to give a small bump up to Amari Cooper. We're still going to be playing Amari. Now, based off Deshaun Watson being banged up and as well based off the Raiders having a backup quarterback who's really going to be getting hit in this scenario is going to be the secondary options in these respective offenses. So if we go over to Las Vegas, that means Jacoby Myers will be a wide receiver that honestly, even though he's had a tremendous amount of volume as of late, you still probably aren't too excited to go out there and actually play Jacoby Myers, right? And then with Deshaun Watson, I mean, being not 100%, we're probably going to want to go through and bench what we have in the secondary options in Cleveland, such as Elijah Moore. Now, outside of that, we have Kyler Murray not being expected to get activated off the PUP list when first eligible. I mean, I don't think this is too much of a surprise to many, right? I mean, maybe if somehow, some way the Cardinals go out there and beat the 49ers, then all of a sudden we get a massive shift where all of a sudden, I mean, they go, oh, okay, yeah, we're 2-2 now. Hey, Kyler, how's that knee feeling? Kyler, you think you can come back? Maybe then they would, but in reality, what's going to happen is more times than not, you're most likely going to be in a situation where you have the Cardinals dropping this week, them having no real reason to rush Kyler back in, and them really trying to insert themselves in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes for next year. Now, outside of that, I mean, Deebo Samuel, quote unquote, appears to be optimistic. Will play week 4. Now, we're playing Deebo Samuel. You're playing Brandon Ayuk. You're playing George Kittle. You're playing Christian McCaffrey. Not too much of an impact here overall. And then outside of that, I believe we talked about everything. We have no more news regarding Saquon Barkley right now. Still listed as doubtful for week 4. So, I think we have to plan on going with a different player at your running back slot than you would Saquon Barkley because he goes on Monday night. We're not going to know by the time we have to make those starts and decisions on Sunday morning. I wish that we could say, oh, okay, let's fire up Saquon Barkley. He's going to be great. He's going to, trust me, I hope that we all bench him, and I hope that he goes out there and drops 1 million points regardless, so he helps me out on all those best ball teams that I have him. But yeah, super hard to rely upon him. And y'all know last week we were saying that you could not start Matt Breida under any circumstance. That was because of the matchup against the 49ers. Now this should be a much better spot going up against Seattle. So if you really wanted to go through and you really wanted to start Matt Breida, you'd be able to if you wanted. But I think that should be it there in terms of all the updates that we have. And of course, drop a like on this video if you have not done so already. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. We'll be live tomorrow morning. We'll be live every single day until 2024. So if you're not subscribed, fix your life. Make sure you do that ASAP. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, one of my favorite pick'ems for this week will be Alexander Madison for fewer than 75.5 total yards. You can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK is going to get you a 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, you're going to be getting a special Patrick Mahomes pick'em more than less than half a total yard against the New York Jets on Sunday night. So please make sure you are taking advantage of that. I believe we have no super chats. So actually, no, we got one coming out. Otropics says, 12-team, 3 wide receivers. Should we trade Puka and Alvin Kamara? For Alvin Kamara or James Cook. 3 wide receiver league, it will be a little bit more difficult. Now, we did get the report coming in saying, oh, okay, well, you will have Cooper Kupp back at practice. Kupp will most likely be good to go starting in week 5. So 100%, I understand the thought process on why we would want to do this. 3 wide receiver league, I'd be fine if you wanted to hold on to Puka. If we were going to trade for a running back, I would rather have James Cook over Alvin Kamara if we were going to make that swing, my friend. Anthony, longtime member of the flock, says bench is Mixon, Rashad White, Flowers, Watson, Gainwell, Charbonnet. I'm streaming tight ends and I hate it. What tight end could I reasonably trade for? If you wanted to go out there and see if we could send one of these running backs like Joe Mixon for maybe Mark Andrews, I think that could be appealing. Get maybe the Andrews team had either Dobbins or Nick Chubb. Or if you wanted to go get a little bit of a cheaper tight ends, I mean, I think you could go through and send like Zay Flowers and see if we could get to Darren Waller. I mean, Darren Waller is a player I really thought was overrated coming into the season, but now I think honestly maybe an intriguing buy low piece. Now, Oliver says Ayuk and Pitts for Waddle and Kincaid in a half PPR redraft format. Pitts to Kincaid, definitely a downgrade. Ayuk to Waddle, definitely an upgrade. I think at this point, we're probably going to have to go ahead and we're probably going to have to take Jalen Waddle and Dalton Kincaid. And I mean, I was going through and I was drafting Kyle Pitts in round 7 often this year too. Richard says 10 teams, should we drop Fields or Hopkins for Godwin where we have Tua? If you think that you are not going to be able to trade Justin Fields for anything, even if he has a great game against the Denver Broncos this week, then Hopkins, yes, we would drop. Fields, we would drop him for Godwin. However, if you think that there's an outside chance that you could find a league mate that was willing to go through and trade for Justin Fields, then we probably would. Teddy says 2-1 in a 12-team PPR format. We have Herbert, CMC, Sanders, Waddle, Ridley, Ertz, Lockett. On the bench, we have Deontay, Algier, Quentin Johnston, Tanks Bigsby. Thoughts on the squad and possible trades? It's a good team for now. Obviously, we would like in the long term to get a tight end upgrade. In reality, however, I think you're probably going to be stuck sitting on your hands and just playing Zach Ertz as we wait for Deontay Johnson to come back. Once we get Deontay back in, then at that point, maybe we can revisit this though. Nathan says start Swift, Dell, or Pickens in the flex in a full PPR format. Not really going to think about this one too much, my man. It's DeAndre Swift easily. Elite level offense, getting every single touch here as well. Arthur says sit one, DJ Moore, Sutton, or Matt Breida. I'll actually bench Sutton. DJ Moore has that good matchup going up against Denver. And then obviously Matt Breida has no Saquon Barkley. I think he's viable against Seattle. Jalen says start Tutu or Tank Dell in the flex this week. Really going to be up to you. I mean, I'm fine either way. One of my favorite pick'ems on Underdog this week is actually going to be Tank Dell. But I mean, it just gives you a sense of what the realistic expectation should be. It's only at 3.5 receptions and 45.5 receiving yards. So honestly, I do think it's up to you, my friend. I'd definitely rather have Tank Dell rest of season. This week, you could go either way, though. Margot says, I need a quarterback in a flex. We have Fields, Tua, Devon Achane, Hollywood, DJ Moore, and Elijah Moore. A quarterback, you're going to go Tua, even if Justin Fields is a great matchup. And then our flex spot, we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing Devon Achane and just sending up a prayer that somehow, some way can overcome the tough matchup and see half of what he did last week, right? I mean, Devon Achane scored more points in his first NFL game ever than DJ Moore has done all season. Hervin says Nico or Kirk for the flex. I'm definitely going to go Christian Kirk over Nico Collins now that you have no Zay Jones. Danny says full BBR, should we trade Derrick Henry and Hollywood Brown for T. Higgins and Joe Mixon? So Hollywood Brown to T. Higgins is a massive upgrade. Derrick Henry to Joe Mixon, honestly, is kind of up to you with the worries that we've seen with Derrick Henry so far. I'd probably still rather have Derrick Henry, but it's not like it's a clear cut. They're in different tiers. I think they are in the same tier. So I would go ahead and I probably would take these Cincinnati players. Freak Show coming out says Debo and Moz for Eckler in a half PPR format. If you're like 3-0 and you can wait for the long term, not having Eckler over the next 2 weeks, we go Eckler. Roast Beef says 12-team full BBR where we have Dak, CMC, Rabadre, Waddle, Ayuk, Hawkinson, Raheem Mostert. We also have Amari, Lockett, Jacoby on the bench. We're currently 2-1. How are we looking? I think it's a great team. I mean, I would love to see if we could take one of these depth wide receivers such as Tyler Lockett and see if we can send them with Dak Prescott to get to a quarterback that we're more excited to start from a week-to-week perspective. But nonetheless, very well-balanced team, and I do really like it, my friend. Victor says 6-point passing touchdown league, Burrow or Anthony Richardson. We're going to go Anthony Richardson. Not going to think about this one too much until we at least see Joe Burrow clearly at 100%. Haley, thank you for stopping by. Says, hey, Mason, at BBR, we have both Tank Dell and Nico. Which one should we start? And is Swift and T a good trade for Jonathan Taylor? So I actually think that Taylor is more likely than not to come back this next week. And I think he will be playing in the long term. However, it is by no means a guarantee. So at that price, I feel like that we are paying I don't want to say close to the Jonathan Taylor ceiling, but we are definitely upwards of fair value. I would at least see if we can get a wide receiver in return if we were going to make that trade. And then Tank Dell, Nico Collins. I mean, these guys are super close. If you look at what you've had over the past few weeks, Nico Collins has had more volume overall than Tank Dell. Tank Dell's been more efficient with said volume. The underdog pick'ems right now have Nico Collins ahead of Tank Dell. I do have Dell ahead of Collins, though. But honestly, it is your personal call on that one. Rick says, hey, Tank Dell or Adam Thielen in an 8-team format. I personally am going to go Tank Dell. I want to warn everyone, we already looked at this just 10 seconds ago, but I want to point it out again. I do not want to sit here and say, oh, Tank Dell is a must-start wide receiver by any means. They currently have Tank Dell at 3.5 receptions on Underdog Fantasy. Like, the volume is not really supposed to be there. Adam Thielen actually, if Jonathan Mingo's out, let's just play Adam Thielen. Let's not overthink it. Let's just go Adam Thielen. Even if the passing volume comes down in Carolina, where maybe they don't have 60 passing attempts again, probably going to see the same thing happen in Houston, right? Okay. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Gabriel says, 10-team PPR, Holland Olave for Waddle and ETN. I would go Waddle and ETN. I mean, I would rather have Olave over Waddle, but they're in a similar tier. I mean, ETN is at a completely different tier than Breece Hall for me, so let's go ETN there. Dude Jazzy Jeff says, hey, Mason, would you trade Tutu and Debo to get A.J. Brown? Hell yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat, my man. We have Keenan Ridley and Addison at receiver. Hook 'em. Debo Samuel crushed this past week, right? But it was under the scenario where you had a banged up Brandon Ayuk, and now Brandon Ayuk's fully healthy and Debo's banged up. Amani says 14-team PPR. We have Richardson, Stevenson, Montgomery, Hill, Waddle, Waller, Puka. And then on the bench, we have Dotson, Charbonnet, Moore, Spears, Bryce Young. Any improvements or traits? I mean, if we could send Puka and get to like Chris Olave still, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, I would. In reality, that was a deal that was very easy to do last week. This week, I've seen people really not being able to pull it off. So, I mean, it's much, much easier said than done. But if we could trade him straight up for one of those wide receivers, we do it. In reality, you're probably sitting on your hands. 14-team format, very nice team. It's going to be harder to sell depth in that 14-team league. Derek says, at BBR, should we flex Pacheco, Flowers, or Jordan Addison? I'm going to go Flowers, even if it's a tough matchup, specifically because we have no Odell and we have no Bateman. Himloyd says, 12-team at BBR format, 2-1. The starters are Herbert, Gibbs, Khalil, Jefferson, Olave, Higbee, Lockett. On the bench, we have Flowers, JSN, Gainwell, Rice, Roshan, Reed, Just Sill, Deontay on the IR. Any recommendations? So, I mean, we do have a considerable amount of long-term upside down on the bench, like Deontay Johnson, long-term piece. Zay Flowers, long-term piece. JSN, long-term piece. Rashee Rice, long-term. Roshan, long-term. So, I mean, we don't have a ton of value down on the bench that we can be selling for a piece right this second. And in reality, I think this team will be much better off just going through, waiting for these rookies to continue to develop, and naturally this team will improve. I mean, if you really wanted to make a trade, it'd be like sending away one of the rookie wide receivers that has a considerable amount of value right now, such as Zay Flowers and Justin Herbert and Khalil Herbert to get to a running back we were really excited about, but you don't have to do that. Peter says, start one, Chew Bubbard, Matt Breida, or Brian Robinson. We are going to go Brian Robinson under the assumption Miles Sanders plays, my friend. Nate says, PBR 10-team league, start 3 receivers in a flex. My running backs are Taylor, Kamara, Montgomery, Pierce, Devon Achane. We need better receivers. Is Montgomery a sell high or a league winner? If it's going to be a full PBR format, I wouldn't mind seeing what we could get for David Montgomery. I mean, we've said this all offseason. But non-PBR, David Montgomery is a buy. Half PBR format, David Montgomery is a hold. Full PBR format for the right price, David Montgomery is a sell, just given the ascension that we should have from Jahmyr Gibbs later on this season. So obviously it depends on the price that you're going to get. For now, there's no reason to go through and sell them unless you're going to get someone that's great in return, right? Like if you could go ahead, if you could get Chris Olave, if you could go get a Devonta Smith, if you could go get a wide receiver like that in a 3 wide receiver start league, that's a full PBR format. Would not fault you at all there. Kwame says, pick 2 PBR where we have Connor, Jacobs, and Devon Achane. We're going to go James Conner and Josh Jacobs. Devon Achane, I mean, maybe more touchdown upside based off the offense that he's in. And I mean, both running backs have a bad matchup, but at least we can assume Miami moves the ball down the field. But let's go with the running backs that we know we're going to have the workload until we see otherwise. I don't think losing Jimmy Garoppolo is going to negatively impact what you have with Josh Jacobs too much. Gavin says starting Devonta Smith and Brandon Ayuk. We need one more. Nico, Kirk, DJ Moore, or Gabe Davis. 3-0 right now. Hell yes, my man. Let's go. Thanks. No, thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock. I think it would have been a tougher call for us if it wasn't for Zay Jones missing. But now that you're not going to have Zay Jones in this offense, I would just go ahead and get Christian Kirk in there. I mean, Kirk's seen the volume over the past 2 weeks. Christian Kirk has dominated over the past 2 weeks as well. I think Gabe Davis probably has higher ceiling. Maybe if it was a non-PPR format, you go Gabe Davis for the touchdown upside. DJ Moore has a better matchup, but I think the situation is probably best for Christian Kirk. Miller coming out says 12-team Dynasty Superflex, currently 0-4. Jacobs for a future first and a couple meaningless picks. Would be sending Jacobs, have a young team. Obviously, if you're 0-4, it's time to burn it down. It's time to make sure that we can go through and we can be picking up, the 101 and have Caleb Williams in next year's rookie draft if it's a Dynasty Superflex league. So yeah, I would trade Josh Jacobs for a future first. Hopefully it's an early first though. Now Ethan says 10-team BBR, 2 receivers in a flex. We have Tua, Richardson, Lamb, Keenan, Olave, Kirk, Saquon, Gibbs, Cook, Hall, White, Devon Achane. Tight end, we have Dallas Goedert. We're 3-0 any trades. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. Wide receiver depth really isn't going to matter. So if you could do a couple different things here. One, we could take Christian Kirk and send him with Jahmyr Gibbs to try to get a stud running back right now. Also, with that being said, full BBR format where we're 3-0. I don't mind at all holding on to Jahmyr Gibbs here for the long term. The other thing that we could look to do is if you could potentially approach like the Justin Fields team, the Joe Burrow team, maybe one of these teams that really need a quarterback, and you send them either Tua or Anthony Richardson plus Dallas Goedert for an elite level tight end. That could be interesting since we have both these quarterbacks. Sim coming out says full BBR, Devon Achane or Chris Godwin for the flex. If you look at raw projections, Devon Achane does have a higher projection than what you have with Chris Godwin. But with that being said as well, Chris Godwin has a higher projection than Devon Achane. I'm going to have a hard time getting away from the player that in his first game, he went out there and he dropped 50 points. Even if it's a tough matchup, even if the workload is uncertain. It's not an easy call by any means. We have no idea what to expect with Devon Achane. I'm probably going to go with the running back, though. It is super, super tough, my friend. Really, it's up to you. Now, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 like away from hitting 200 likes on this live stream. If you have not done so already, please go down there, hit that like button. We're going to be live streaming all night tonight, and we are going to be live streaming tomorrow morning. We're going to live stream every single day until 2024. So go down there, hit that like, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems for the games tomorrow on Underdog, you can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 on a new Underdog account. Plus, you're going to be getting a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the New York Jets on Sunday night. So please make sure you're going to take advantage of that. Plus, you'll get my updated rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. Now, Amani coming out says 12-team BBR where we have Tua, Sanders, Hill, Waddle, Shaheed, Hawkinson, Olave, Robinson. 10 bench spots, JT's in there, improvements, trades, and advice. So if there are going to be 10 bench spots, it's going to be much harder to make 2-for-1 deals to upgrade in the starting lineup, just because inherently those options off the waiver wire are going to be significantly worse, where a roster spot's going to be worth a little bit less than it would be in, say, just like a league with 6 to 7 bench spots. So I actually think that we probably keep this team as is. Definitely want to continue to churn the waiver wire if we can. And it is very interesting that we kind of go all in with the Miami Dolphins offense here, having the starting QB, having the running back, having the receivers. Yeah, I mean, we're living or dying by Miami. I'm sure it's been great so far, but hopefully it keeps up. Joel says, start Goddard or Pitts as my tight end in a full PPR format. Really tough call, my man. I mean, if you look at our tight end rankings right now, I mean, these are guys that we have pretty much back-to-back, and these are guys that I drafted a lot of. Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, we're going in round 7 of Underdog drafts, next to like the wide receiver 40. I thought they could outscore the wide receivers in that range, and clearly I'm an idiot for ever thinking so. If you look at my rankings right now, I have Dallas Goedert at tight end 8 and Kyle Pitts at tight end 9 for this week. Joey says, PVR start 2 in the flex. We have Gabe, Hopkins, or Miles Sanders. Sanders, if he is going to go, and then we'll go DeAndre Hopkins in a full PPR format now that you have no Treylon Burks. Emmanuel says it's a good deal. I get Mahomes for Myers and Kamara. I think it's a great deal, my man. We have Geno, Henry, Mixon, Higgins, Puka, Kyron, Kelsey. Oh, especially if we have Kelsey and we have these guys on the bench. No brainer. Yeah, let's go get Mahomes, my man. Dude Jazzy says Debo or Ridley this week. Can't tell if Debo plays. Even if Debo were to play, I would still go Calvin Ridley. Keep in mind, a big reason you had the massive spike for Debo Samuel this past week was given the fact that you had no Brandon Ayuk in this offense. Maybe it's going to be a little bit tougher now, my friend. Jeb says 12-team PPR, 1 flex. Starting lineup is Richardson, Kyron, Kamara, Jefferson, Olave, Waller, Puka. And then on the bench, we have Howell, Kareem, Ramondre, Mixon, Roshan, and Zach Ertz. Any advice? This is a team where you have so much running back production that if we could take like Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua and get up to a true elite level wide receiver, I think that'd be very, very interesting. I'm talking a top 5 wide receiver rest of season. And then also, one other thing is we probably drop Sam Howell, pick up another quarterback off the waiver wire. From what we've seen with Sam Howell over the past few weeks, really hard to see him turning into someone we're ever starting. Now, Gourmet coming out says a full BBR 12-team league. We have Hurts, Jacobs, Saquon, Amari, Pittman, Puka, Laporta, London, Brian Robinson, Gallup, Kelly, Zeke, Jeff Wilson Jr. Trade away anybody and any trade targets. So I'm going to reiterate what we've said over and over again. I mean, if you could get back a true elite level receiver from Puka before Cup comes back in, not going to fault you at all if you want to make that swing. Outside of that, I think it's a very well-balanced roster. Really not too many moves that we can make. Love the elite quarterback. Love the tight end we can start every single week as well. The only real interesting question that you have is, do you start Brian Robinson or Joshua Kelly? I have fallen for Joshua Kelly over the past 2 weeks. I refuse to do it again, so I am probably going through and just starting Brian Robinson. Of course, assuming Saquon misses. Freddie says, I started Gibbs this week, so we need to decide between Zach Moss or Ayuk in the flex. We're 100% going to be going with Zach Moss, regardless of if Debo Samuel plays or not, my man. Regardless. Now, Tommy coming out says 10 TPBR double flex. Trade CeeDee Lamb for Kupp and JT, where we have Puka. Ooh, very interesting deal. If you're 3-0 and we can take a risk on the long-term upside, I'd probably do it. If we're 3-0, I probably take a risk. Or 2-1, as long as we're not 0-3, my man. Eric says full BBR 1 flex, Pierce, Stevenson, or Sutton. We're definitely going to go Stevenson, even in the tough matchup. Eddie says full BBR pick 3, Smith, Higgins, Ayuk, Addison, Tank Dell. We're going to have to go ahead. We're going to go with Devonta Smith. We're going to go Brandon Ayuk with the banged up Debo, regardless if he plays or not. And then we will go T. Higgins over Tank Dell and Jordan Addison. Even though T. Higgins did disappoint last week and Burrow's still injured, you'd have a great matchup going up against Tennessee. Now, Terrestrial coming out says Palmer or Sutton week 4 for the flex. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton in a plus matchup against Chicago. I mean, with Joshua Palmer, I'll feel much more comfortable starting him once we actually see what this offense looks like with no Mike Williams. A travesty coming out says, hey, Mason, 2-1 in an 8-team league, 1 flex. We have Hurts, Walker, Williams, Waddle, Allen, Kelsey, Jacobs. On the bench, we have Puka, Cook, Collins. Do we package Cook and Waddle for an elite receiver? Adams, Chase, Diggs, or keep this? Specifically because this is an 8-team league with 1 flex, I would love to do that. I love that we already have Jalen Hurts and Travis Kelce. Maybe we would look to go ahead and package together Kyron just in case the situation maybe changes there in that offense. Obviously, as of now, Kyron Williams is a locked and loaded stud starter every single week, but you don't know if anything's going to change, especially I know that we've had some Jonathan Taylor trade rumors. Obviously, they are just rumors, though. Aaron says, which 2 would be best for the bench in a 10-team league? We have Charbonnet, Roshan, Gainwell, McKinnon, or Tajay Spears, Gabe Davis, London, Mims, or Quentin Johnston. Okay. So if we are just rostering the highest upside players, like if an injury were to occur in front of them, I think we're going to go Roshan and Zach Charbonnet. And then between the receivers, if we're looking to start someone this week, we're going to go Gabe Davis. And honestly, if you're asking the same question, we have to roster two of these guys. I would roster Gabe Davis and Drake London. Give more. Happy to see you, my man. Says, my guy, 10-team full BBR format. 2-1. We have Hurts, CMC, Etienne, Jefferson, Pittman, Waddle. On the bench, we have Puka, Pickens, Devon, Alexander Madison. Honestly, I think we keep this lineup as is in the majority of the places. The only thing that I would look to do is I would most likely play Puka over Michael Pittman. I mean, at least before Cooper Kupp comes back in, obviously Puka has just the guaranteed volume. He's at the very top of the NFL in targets. And if you do look also at the underdog pickups, I mean, you have Michael Pittman at like, I think 60 receiving yards. Well, you have Puka at like 74.5 or something crazy. So I think you have to go Puka over Pittman for one more week here, my friend. But Anto coming out says 2-1 in a 10-team map BBR format with 3 receivers and a flex. We have Cook, Gibbs, Adams, Tutu, Watson, Kelsey, Achane. And then on the bench, we have Pacheco, JT, Kupp, Mims, JSN, Elijah. We got offered Cook for James Conner and DJ Moore. Because this is a league where we are starting 3 wide receivers, I would say this is actually a little bit too much. We're going to reevaluate a trade like this once we actually get Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp back in, my friend. But we have so many long-term pieces here, such as Kupp, JT, JSN, that yes, they have upside, but a little bit of uncertainty at the moment, that I'd wait to see if these guys are producing before we go and make a 2-for-1 deal in this league. John says full BBR sit 1, Bijan, DK, sit 1 out of Higgins, Stevenson, Ayuk, and Moss. Tough spot. I think you have to play the running backs, if I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be down between Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins. If you were to have Deebo Samuel playing, honestly, I think you go Ayuk regardless. I was going to say, if you had Deebo playing, you go Higgins. No. Let's not overthink it. I mean, until we see Joe Burrow fully healthy, I think we can play Brandon Ayuk over Higgins. Now, Ethan says, traded Mostert, Andrews for Kelsey and Moss. No, for Kelsey. Great deal to get Kelsey there. Kelsey's completely different tier than Andrews. And then Moss for Amari. Long term, this will look good. Short term, it may look tough. 1 and 2, we have Mahomes, Pollard. Oh, especially if we have the Mahomes-Kelsey stack now. Mahomes, Pollard, Kyron, Taji, Jeff Wilson, Lamb, Devonta Smith, Amari. Oh, great team. Great deals, my man. Great team, great deals. The only thing I'd say, maybe if you could sell Tutu in a small package, you go get a wide receiver that we like a little bit more in the long term. That could be interesting, but you're in a great spot there, my friend. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from Richard says, Jameis or Mac Jones in the Superflex? I believe Derek Carr has not officially been ruled out yet, but if Derek Carr is ruled out and Jameis is the starter, I'm going to go Jameis. Zeke says, PBR, Jacobs and Kirk for CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall. You know, I've been screaming to sell Breece Hall for a while now. I mean, this week we've been a little bit quieter about it because now he doesn't really have any value, but honestly, I'd be fine going out there and getting him at this price. Jacobs to Lamb, definitely an upgrade in a PPR league. Kirk to Hall, I'd probably rather have the long-term upside of Hall. Rob says, no Saquon. For the flex, we're going to go Breece, JSN, McKinnon, or Downs. I hate to say it, my man. Probably have to go Breece Hall. I mean, right now the applied team total for the Jets is like 16 points, so obviously it's gross, but still. Elias says, I need a win this week. Non-PPR in the flex. Pick one. Palmer, Herbert, Hollywood, or JSN. No Eckler is killing me. I know. I'm sorry, my man. Obviously, JSN, you like him in the long term. This week's going to be tough. I would say in a non-PPR format, we're going to opt to go ahead. We're going to take the running back, especially when he has a great matchup. I think we are going to go ahead and take Khalil Herbert. I mean, keep in mind, the Denver Broncos gave up like 7 touchdowns to the running backs in Miami last week. Not 7, but pretty damn close. Bridger says, Lamar or Richardson this week. Lamar is a really tough matchup. I think you can make an argument for Richardson. I still probably go Lamar until we get to see Richardson finish an entire game. GV says, who to start in the 2 flexes? Out of Pittman, Pierce, Madison, Javonte, Pacheco, Thielen, and Michael Thomas. I think we're going to go ahead and take Michael Pittman in one of these spots in a full PPR format. Then we also probably go out Alexander Madison in the other. I will be honest, though, I do have lowered expectations for Alexander Madison this week in comparison to what we saw last week based off, hate to say it, based off Cam Akers having a role in Minnesota. I do think that this is probably a running back by committee. Now, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not done so already, we are 2 likes away from hitting 300 likes on this live stream. Go down there, drop a like on this stream. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a dollar for dollar deposit match up to $500 on Underdog Fantasy. Plus, you're going to be getting our updated rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And for tomorrow's game, you're going to be getting a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the New York Jets. But Crazy Clips coming out says, pick 2 running backs to start in a flex out of these. We have Connor Mixon, Devon Achane, Tank Dell, Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, Christian Kirk, and Jerry Jeudy. Our 2 running backs, we're going to be going with James Conner and Joe Mixon. And then our flex, if you wanted a high floor, you're going to go Brian Robinson. If you wanted a high ceiling, you're going to go Devon Achane. Obviously, both running backs have very tough matchups, but they do also have the guaranteed, I don't want to say guaranteed, but they do also have a decent volume projection. Now, Skyward says, hey, I'm currently 1-2 where we have Hurts, Bijan, Brown, Javonte Wilson, Tutu Kincaid, double flex, McLaurin, Kirk, and then on the bench, we have Pierce, Cooks, Dobbs, Ferguson. Do I sell Bijan for Montgomery and Ridley? I would agree that I think this is one of those very few teams where you could look to sell a stud to get some extra depth in. I mean, this is a team where we really don't have a lot of depth at this moment. But with that being said, you would be dramatically underselling Bijan Robinson at this price. So I would say, you know what? No, probably don't want to do this. You want to hold on to Bijan Robinson. I don't hate the idea of going through and selling for 2 startable players, but you definitely need better options than this. Derek says, full BBR, we have Addison, Amari, Thielen, Devonta Smith, Brian Robinson, Khalil Herbert, Devon Achane, 2 receivers, and a flex. We're going to be going with Amari Cooper and Devonta Smith. And then for our flex spot in a full PBR format, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I mean, Brian Robinson does have a very tough matchup. If you look at my flex rankings right now, we still have Brian Robinson as the guy. It's just scary going up against Philly. I just always opt to go with the running backs that are getting the guaranteed volume, you know. Anto says 2 running backs and 2 flexes. We have Pacheco, Ford, Devon Achane, Tank, Rojo, and Gate. We're going to be going with Ford, Devon Achane. We're going to be going with Gabe Davis and then also Isaiah Pacheco. Bench Tank Bigsby and bench, or maybe this is Tank Dell. If it's Tank Dell in a full BBR format, we play him over Pacheco. If it's Tank Bigsby, you got to bench him. But our next question coming out from Austin says, Travis Kelce on sleeper. I'm not looking at him, my man. I'm not doing it. Scott says, start a wide receiver 2. Amari, Jeudy, Pickens. We're going to go Amari, even with the Watson injury. And then at tight end, are we going to go Pitts or Waller? I really did not like Waller coming into the season, but I think Waller will be better. I mean, I think it's primarily been driven based off how bad this offense has been. And I think partially the reason is they had to play Dallas. They had to play San Fran. I'm going to go Waller. Skyward says, any moves, same roster I mentioned. Yeah, we talked about the possibility of going through and selling these stud for 2 pieces in return. I just think if you are to do so, you definitely need a better price. Lorenzo coming out saying, full BBR where we have Connor, Jacobs, Kamara. Which 2 am I starting? We're going to go Jacobs and Kamara, even with Jimmy Garoppolo missing. And also, are you wearing pants right now? Be honest, am I wearing anything right now is the real question, my man. So Ram says, yes, based on 0-3, 12 team 1 flex. We have Hurts, Hall, Javonte, Devon Achane, Hunt, Elijah, Dalvin, Gainwell, AJ, Hopkins, Gabe, Kelsey. Who are we going to start? Appreciate you, my man, as always. Quarterback, we're going to go Hurts. Running back, we're going to go with Achane and probably Javonte. Wide receiver, we're going to go Brown and Hopkins. And then for a flex spot, I think we're going to roll the dice with Gabe Davis and just say, okay, we want as many pieces in a very high-scoring game. I mean, the highest-scoring game of the week as possible. Now, Infinite ZTV coming out says, 3-0, our starters are Baker, Jefferson, Diggs, Ford, Madison, Hawkinson, Algier. On the bench, we have Roshan, Jimmy G, Sanders, Watson, JT. Any advice? Should I make trades? Thank you, Mason. Really appreciate you, my man. I mean, if you could take some of this running back depth, like go send Alexander Madison and Baker Mayfield and go get a quarterback like Anthony Richardson. I think that'd make a lot of sense. And then just play the waiver wire with running back. Morph says 12-team PPR, Wilson or Godwin, Purdy or Burrow. Burrow being off the injury report, I'm fine if you wanted to swap over to Joe Burrow. It's damn close. And then between Garrett Wilson and Chris Godwin, these guys are literally back-to-back in our flex rankings this week. One's at 54, the other's at 55. So fundamentally, I do think it's up to you between those two guys. I'd probably go Chris Godwin. Joey says 10-team PPR 0-3. We have Goff, Mixon, Aaron Jones, A.J. Brown, Puka, Waller, Hopkins, Davis, Sanders, Watson, Johnston, JT, and Kupp. Drafted prior to the drama. If I lose this week, do I start selling for picks? Oh yeah, if this is a dynasty startup, my man, I think we already start selling for picks. If this is a dynasty league, yes, I think we tear it down. I think we start selling these veterans and set ourselves up for 2024. There's no reason, I mean, if we go 0-4, there's no reason to continue to try to compete if that's the case. You're better off just getting a better pick next year. Connor says 8-team full PPR league where we have Hurts, Pollard, Kyron, Devontae Adams, Jefferson, Andrews, Aaron Jones. On the bench, we have Puka, Amari, Sanders, Nico, Judy. Should we trade Jones, Kyron, and Puka for Austin Eckler? The majority of formats, I would say no. The majority of leagues that say you're giving up too much for Austin Eckler, running back that's not going to be playing over the next 2 weeks. However, specifically with this being an 8-team league where the only thing that matters is the absolute ceiling of these players, I'd be completely fine with us making this move. 20 says drop Woods for Downs, Chark, or Chuba Hubbard. I would drop Robert Woods for Chuba Hubbard just in case Miles Sanders were to miss. Then all of a sudden he becomes a real difference-making player. Jake says 12-team PPR 1 flex. Do we play Evans, Kirk, or Michael Thomas? We're going to go Mike Evans even in the tough matchup, my friend. That one guy, Lucas, says 0-3 in a 14-team PPR league, double flex. Starts it. We have Lamb, Kyron, Henry, Ridley, Kamara, Higgins. Already started Amon-Ra at receiver. So our other wide receiver slot, we're going to be going CeeDee Lamb. Our running back slot, we're going to go with Kyron Williams. Actually, we'll give Derek. Oh my gosh. Full PPR format, F it. I'm going Kyron Williams. And then 4-2 flexes, I think we're going to be going with Derrick Henry and Calvin Ridley. We're going to go Derrick Henry and Calvin Ridley in the flexes. Okay. But Judah coming out with our next question. Thank you, my friend. This says 12-team auction keeper super flex. We have Goff, Stafford, Amon-Ra, Pitts, Gibbs, Herbert, Hawkinson, Thomas. On the bench, we have JT, Charbonnet, Russ, Mitchell, Knox, Chuba. Help fix at flex and RB. I would say if you were looking to fix the running back position for the long term, what I'd probably look to do is go ahead and cut Dawson Knox, pick up another running back off the waiver wire and try to be the next person to find the next Zach Moss, the next Kyron Williams. And outside of that, because it's a super flex format, I honestly don't think we can afford to go out there and try to upgrade the flex spot. I'd rather upgrade quarterback if we can. But drop Knox when you have Hawkinson. Now, Gamer Nerd coming out says 12-team PPR format, single flex. We have Lamar, Barkley, Jacobs, Amari, Puka, Goddard, Kyron. On the bench, we have Dell, Judy, Dobbs, Ford, Thomas, Mims, Musgrave, Johnston. Thoughts on any trades? So obviously it's going to be very difficult to make trades right now before the games kick off tomorrow. I would say if you look at this team, we're going to be rostering Amari, Puka, Dell, Judy, Dobbs, Thomas, Mims, Johnston. Rostering 8 wide receivers in comparison to Barkley, Jacobs, Kyron, Ford, 4 running backs. So in a 1 flex league, wide receiver depth in the way that you have it is not nearly as important as you think. So I would definitely look to see if we can take any of these wide receivers, package with a player like Dallas Goedert to go maybe get Mark Andrews for the Lamar and Andrews stack, and then pick up another running back off the waiver wire. I definitely think that we're rostering too many receivers here. Now, Brian says 12-team league, 1 and 2, PPR format. We need a running back to trade for. We have Lamar, Roshan, Breida, Waller, Hill, Ridley, Hopkins, Palmer. On the bench, we have Akers, Dillon, Downs, Gibson, Kupp, Zay, Mingo. Any trade ideas? So I would drop Jonathan Mingo, pick up another player off the waiver wire that you like with a slightly higher ceiling. Outside of that, we don't really have any trades. I know you were saying that you need a better running back to trade for, but my man, I mean, who are we going to be able to sell? Is anybody going to give you anything for Akers? Are you getting anything for Dillon? Are you getting anything for Downs? Are you getting anything for Addison? If you wanted to sell Cooper Kupp and go get a running back like Travis Etienne, or sell Cooper Kupp and maybe if we can package him with like Cam Akers and somehow get to like Tony Pollard, then you can go ahead and do that. But in reality, I mean, this is a team that really you're going to have to work the waiver wire as much as you can to solve that running back issue. And we don't have a lot of value until Cooper Kupp comes back. We'd always reevaluate next week and possibly make a trade next week. Bean says trade Walker, Charbonnet, Pitts to get Bijan if we can. Hell yes, we would, my man. Hell yeah, go get Bijan. Jonathan says, yo, receivers are mid. We have Myers, Sutton, Lockett, Hopkins. Should we trade Kelsey for Hawkinson and Ayuk, or Kelsey and Connor and receive Jefferson and have no tight ends? I dislike number 2, but love the upside. Channel's on point, my friend. Really appreciate you. I would be more likely to sell Travis Kelsey in a package to go get an upgrade to Justin Jefferson than I would be to sell Kelsey for Hawkinson and Brandon Ayuk. If you could go like Kelsey for Hawkinson and Chris Olave, then yes, we do it. But going down to like Brandon Ayuk, you are tearing too far down at wide receiver, my friend. Now, Lupin says 12-team PPR format. Trade Hurts, Olave, Walker for JT, Eckler, and Watson. I'm 3-0 and the other team's 0-3. Anthony Richardson is my backup QB. Walker to JT, slight downgrade. Olave to Watson, big time downgrade. Jalen Hurts to Austin Eckler, upgrade. I like the idea, and I think our head's in the right space. We can afford to not have some production in the short term for the long-term upside where our opponent can't. So I think that this makes us natural trade partners. I do think that you're the one giving up the majority of the value. You're taking on all the risk with not enough upside in my mind. So if you could do the deal where instead you sell Anthony Richardson than Jalen Hurts, then 100% I'm in. Or if you could go Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Walker for JT and Eckler and take out Olave and take out Christian Watson. Just try to get a little more value on your side. Morph says, thoughts on Moss rest of season if JT gets traded? I mean, Zach Moss will be a must-start running back every week. I mean, until we see the usage change, Zach Moss is a must-start running back every week, of course, until JT comes back, unless he's traded. Now, Jacob says, hey, man, non-PPR league. Who should we start at receiver? Amari if Watson doesn't play, Zay or Jerry Jeudy. So Watson looks like he is most likely going to play. We will go with Amari. I don't care who our opponent has. We're going to be going with Amari Cooper. And if somehow Watson does not play, then we will pivot over to Zay Flowers. Anonymous says 14-team double flex. We have Myers, Kelly, Charbonnet, and Downs. We're going to go Kelly, and we'll still play Myers even though you have no Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, I mean, having no Jimmy G does suck for Jacoby Myers, but still. Zach Charbonnet, Josh Downs are guys that we like the long-term upside of. Just super hard to start right now. Alex says, hey, Mason, I'm in a 16-team app PBR league with 3 flex spots. Backup is Jones. I offered Lamar and Waller for Mayfield, Dell, and Kelsey. They counter with Tutu instead of Dell. Do I accept? Waller to Kelsey, massive upgrade. Lamar to Mayfield and Tutu, massive downgrade. It's up to you. I'm fine with it. If we could get a slightly better receiver than Tutu Atwell or Tank Dell, I would. I think you try to get someone in like the Christian Kirk range. You know, if you can get someone who think your confidence going to be a top 30 wide receiver rest of season in this format, that's going to make a big difference. Now, the issue is if you are looking at what you have with Tutu Atwell, and this piece actually makes a difference because it's a 16-team league, triple flex. If you're looking at Tutu Atwell, even in this format, it's hard to know if he's going to be startable. Whenever you get Cooper Kupp back in here, my man. I don't think he will be. Morph says, what do you think DeAndre Swift's ceiling is rest of season? If I had to go ultimate ceiling, probably like RB7, RB8. Brada Man says 10 TBBR 1 and 2 right now. Trade CMC, Swift, Watson for Walker, Ridley, Tank Dell. Watson and JT. Okay, that makes a big difference. But let's just break it down piece by piece. Swift to JT, kind of up to you. Going from Christian Watson to Tank Dell, massive downgrade. Would I rather have CMC or Kenneth Walker, Calvin Ridley? CMC by a freaking mile, my man. Yeah, go ahead. Keep Christian McCaffrey here, especially on a 1 and 2 roster. I mean, on a 1 and 2 roster, we don't really have a lot of business going through and trading away like a Christian McCaffrey to get JT and some upgrades. Superfish says non-BBR trade Kyron Williams for Lockett. Hell no. Start 1, Swift, Kyron, Devon A-Chain, Pacheco, Kamara. Thanks, Mason. Appreciate you, my man. We will go ahead and we will start Kyron Williams, especially in a non-PBR format. You want to opt to keep those running backs over wide receivers unless someone's going to pay a premium. John says, rate the 3 trades this week. Hollywood for Mostert. Love it. Gabe Davis for Thomas. I like it. Jaden Reed and Josh Reynolds for, okay, this is the best one, for DK. Yeah, a great deal. Last one, we take 2 crap pieces and get someone that actually makes a difference. Love the last one, my friend. But real quick, if you have not done so already, ladies and gentlemen, we are 3 likes away from hitting 400 likes on this live stream. Go down there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. We're going to be live streaming every single day until 2024. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 with the new account. Plus, you're going to be getting our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers and a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. So please make sure you are taking advantage of that. Now, Carlos coming out and says 1 and 2 in a 10-team single flex league. We have Derek, Connor, or Jacobs. We got to pick 2. We're going to go Derek Henry and Josh Jacobs with James Conner going up against San Fran. And then pick 2 between Pickens, Pittman, Atwell, and Johnson. We're going to go Michael Pittman and George Pickens with no Deontay Johnson. We started Aaron Jones and Love. We also have Kupp and Watson. Thanks. I appreciate you, my friend. Really hope that we were able to help you out there. Give more out against us. Thank you again for the help. 12-team standard, bench 1. AJ Jefferson, Olave, Puka. Oh my gosh, my man, this is brutal. We have to bench Puka, but we don't love it. Phenomenal team, my man. This is a nasty squad. I mean, this looks like it's an 8-team league. Great team, great team. Sean says full BBR, 2 receivers and a flex. Puka, Flowers, Pittman, Tank Dell. We're going to go Puka and Pittman. Running back, we have Kamara, Etienne, Mostert. We're going to be going Kamara, Etienne, and then for the flex spot, we will go ahead and we'll play Raheem Mostert as well, my friend. Okay. Now, moving this over. Next question coming out from D-Brave says, start 2 at the flex, Kyron, Kamara, and Amari. Especially with Deshaun Watson banged up. Now I think that you're in a pretty safe spot to just go ahead and take both running backs that obviously are getting involved as receivers as well. Thomas says, thoughts on Dalton Kincaid in the long-term dynasty tight end premium? I mean, I think Kincaid's nice. Obviously, I mean, you can't really hold anything that's happened through the first 3 weeks of his NFL career against him. I mean, we just know, unless your name's Sam Laporta, rookie tight ends do not produce. Modified Shark says, 12-team PPR league, trade away Myers for Kyron Williams. Hell yeah, go get Kyron Williams easily. I know Myers has had a considerable amount of volume, but running back volume is going to be a little bit harder to come by. And ultimately, I do think that you probably have Myers getting a dip with Devontae Adams in the offense. Cabanova says, Dell's a must start. Don't understand him this week. I will say I think that Tank Dell is an intriguing player, and you can go through and start him if you would really like. Now, with that being said, to call him a must start is very aggressive. If you look at the underdog pickups right now, his projection is 3.5 receptions and 45.5 receiving yards. I have him for more than 3.5 receptions. But at the same time, I just want to use that as a baseline and kind of lower expectations just a little bit here, my man. Just a little bit. Okay. But Charisma coming out says, in a 10-team PBR format where we're 0-3, we have Tua, Robinson, Gibbs, Hill, Puka, Ingram, Debo. On the bench, we have Barkley, Burrow, Lockett, Nico, Hunt, Godwin, Dalvin. We need some help. 0-3 team. This is where I think we'd be fine selling low on Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Gibbs continues to expand his role. So I think on a 3-0 team, I'd actually be buying Jahmyr Gibbs in a full PBR format if it was 3-0. But 0-3, if you could take, say, like Burrow and Gibbs, sell the long-term upside, the long-term production to go get a stud running back that's going to help us out today, I think that could be very interesting. Austin says that was rude. I don't know what I did, my friend. I'm sorry. Don't know what I did. Now, Johnny says Brian Robinson, Godwin for Josh Jacobs. Do you like this? Losing depth to gain a running back 1, where we have Kamara, Javonte, Chase Smith, Waddle, and Ayuk. Oh, hell yeah. If we have, these 4 wide receivers, then yes, let's sell Godwin, our wide receiver 5, and go get a running back upgrade. Love it. Now, Abstrigu says, start 1, Hollywood, Hopkins, Quentin, Elijah, or Zay Flowers. We're going to go Zay Flowers. It's a horrendous matchup against Cleveland, but you have nobody else healthy in Baltimore. Brown has been worth 17-ish points in this league over the past 2 weeks. Brown is also injured and going up against the 49ers defense, my friend. Anto says, Roshan for Addison or Flowers, Cousins at quarterback. Oh, then I'd way rather have Addison over Roshan Johnson. Mikey says 0-3, 10-team PBR format, 1 flex. We have Burrow, Walker, Henry, Chase, Lamb, Kittle, Kyron at the flex, Madison and Zay on the bench. What are your thoughts? We need a win. I agree. We do need a win here, my man. And I think we keep this lineup as is. If you were to make any trades, the trade would be to go through and send like Zay Flowers and Joe Burrow to go get a stud quarterback that's going to produce right now, even if we are selling a decent amount of the long-term upside. Now, the Elixir coming out says 2-1, 10-team league, double flex spot. We have Allen, Walker, Pierce, Chase, Lamb, Ingram, Amari, Pittman. On the bench, we have Algier, Kirk, Jonathan Taylor. Any trades or advice? It will be really nice when we get Jonathan Taylor back in. Honestly, I think it's a very well-balanced team. I think you sit on your hands. The only thing is, if Christian Kirk has another solid game with no Zay Jones, then at that point, it'd be interesting to see if we could go through and sell him for a nice piece. Now, nobody says 10-team BBR flex. Palmer, Nico, Christian Kirk, or Cortland Sutton. We're definitely going to go Christian Kirk this week, my friend, when you have no Zay Jones in this offense. Muhammad says 12-team BBR double flex, where we have Watson, Richardson, Gibbs, Moss, JT, Hunt, Charbonnet, Chase, Adams, Waddle, Ridley, Watson, JSN, Laporta. Should we upgrade at running back or quarterback? We traded Zay for Ridley. Great trade there, my man. And honestly, no. I think long-term, when we get JT back in, this will be a much better team. If you really wanted to make a move, actually, I don't do anything in a double flex format. I think you sit as is. And especially Anthony Richardson's going to be a quarterback that we can start every single week, pretty much regardless of matchup, my friend. TK says full BBR 10-team league. We have Higgins, Moss, Ridley, Flowers, Hollywood. Pick 2 for the flex. We're going to be going with Zach Moss and Calvin Ridley before you have Joe Burrow fully healthy for Higgins. Rawlings, a long-time member of the flock. Happy to see you, my friend. 12-team BBR, I'm 1-2. We have Tua, Eckler, Etienne, Olave, Amari, Kincaid, Dell. The bench is Hollywood, Kirk, Khalil Herbert, Roshan, JSN, Mims. Do I trade Eckler and Amari for Mixon and Kelsey? I actually would do this. If we're 1-2 and we need points right now, going from Eckler to Kelsey, I don't think it's a downgrade. Obviously, we need a tight end here when we have Dalton Kincaid in. We're getting a back in running back. I think I'd be fine with this trade. I'd say another side note is I probably personally start Christian Kirk over Tank Dell this week. Woofa Goofa says full BBR pick 3. We have Henry, Kyron, Swift, Rashad. Thanks, Mason. No, thank you, my man. So essentially, we just have to bench one player to bench. I think our bench will be most likely Rashad White. Next week, if things keep on trending in this direction, though, I could see us pivoting over and maybe calling Derrick Henry the bench, but not ready to bench Derrick Henry for Rashad White just yet. Now, Dominic says 16-team league, full BBR 0-3. Do we trade Gibbs, Ford, Kirk, and Josh Downs to receive Ridley and David Montgomery? 16-team format, no. because we are giving up a couple of players that actually could be making a difference here. If this was like a 10-team league where I'd be like, okay, yeah, Christian Kirk doesn't really have that much value, then let's go ahead. Sure, let's do it. 16-team format, I would try to keep Christian Kirk. I think he's a big-time difference maker when it's going to be so hard to backfill from the depth. If we can keep him, then yes, we would make this move, my friend. Now, Meg says 10-team full BBR where we're 1 and 2. We have Lamar, Etienne, Kyron, Keenan, Diggs, Goddard, Ridley. On the bench, we have Montgomery, Sanders, Kamara, Pickens, Lawrence. Should we make any upgrades? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, if you really wanted to send, like if you could send, say, Montgomery when we have this many depth running backs and Dallas Goedert to go get a Travis Kelce level player. I mean, hell, even if we had to throw in an extra piece, even if we had to throw in George Pickens, let's go ahead and let's try to do it. But in reality, I'm just going to assume that it's much easier said than done. You probably can't. Now, Moss Sampson coming out says 12-team at BBR with only 1 flex. We have Pacheco, Connor, Jefferson, Metcalf. Who are we going to play at the flex? Between Ayuk, Justice Hill, Dowdle, Michael Thomas, Dotson, and Downs. So Ayuk will be good to go. It looks like Deebo Samuel most likely will be as well. But I think that we most likely have to go ahead and we have to play Brandon Ayuk regardless if Deebo's good to go or not. Roast Beef says, who would you go with long-term, Ayuk or Amari? I personally am going to go with Amari. Hopefully the Deshaun Watson shoulder injury isn't too serious. Getting Iggy with it says team is 3-0 in a 10-team BBR league. Running backs are Najee, Madison, Kyron, Brian Robinson, Hunt. And we have Taylor and Deontay on the IR. Kyron and Brian Robinson for Saquon. I actually would go ahead and make this move. I know people are worried that Saquon's going to miss a considerable amount of time. With that being said, Saquon did get in 3 practices this week. So I don't think like all lost is hope with Saquon Barkley by any means. Number one stun is coming out, says 8-team full BBR format. Pick 2 out of the 3. Deebo, Kamara, Ridley. Thanks for the advice every week. No, thank you so much, my man. With Deebo Samuel not being at 100% and with the fact they're going up against Arizona, so they probably don't really have to push him too much here, I am just going to go ahead. I will take Alvin Kamara and Calvin Ridley and not really stress about it too much. Kelsey says traded Ford, Gabe Davis, Chris Godwin for CeeDee Lamb. Was this too much? Hell no, especially if this is like a league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. I would love this move. Otropic says 12-team, 3 wide receiver PPR. Trade Tank Dell for Alexander Madison. Don't love it since it's a 3 wide receiver league. I think we still probably go ahead and do it, my man. I mean, I'm not a big Madison guy, but it is what it is. I think it's a fair price. Nobody says, I forgot to add Myers to the list of flexes. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up. We'll still start Christian Kirk over Jacoby Myers, especially now that you have no Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow. Now, Superfish says non-BBR traded Kamara for Lockett. We have Jalen Hurts, Bijan, Pollard, Swift, Kyron, Pacheco, Algier, Kamara, Ridley, Watson, Pickens, Laporta. I think this is a great team, and I understand why you are trying to go through and make one of these deals when we have this much production at running back. You can't do it though, my man. You need to go ahead. You need to hold on to the running backs that you have. It's a non-PBR format. If you are going to be selling one of these running backs, we're not going to be sending them straight up for Tyler Lockett. We're going to be seeing if we can get an elite level receiver in return. If you wanted to send, say, Calvin Ridley and George Pickens or Alvin Kamara and George Pickens for an elite receiver, then let's do it. But non-PBR formats, I mean, you have to make people overpay for running backs if you're going to sell them. Like Kamara just going to crush Lockett here in points per game rest of season. Now, Seb says non-BBR, who would you start? Pitts, Kincaid, Puka, or Christian Kirk? We're going to go ahead. We're going to go with Pitts over Kincaid and Puka over Kirk. Ned says start 2, Judy, Sutton, Myers, Pickens, Palmer, and Godwin. We're going to be going with Jerry, Judy, and George Pickens. I think that Pickens will continue to get volume with no Deontay Johnson, and I think Judy will improve as he gets further removed from the hamstring. Josh says need 2 flexes, Hopkins, Ford, Palmer, and Tutu. We're going to go with Jerome Ford, and I will now actually start DeAndre Hopkins over Tutu since you have no Treylon Burks. Daniel says need 2 receivers in a flex. Pickens, Dell, Addison, and Achane. We're going to be going with George Pickens and Jordan Addison at wide receiver, and I will go with Devon Achane at the flex spot. Dell is a is an exciting player, but you cannot call him a must-start option at this point. I want everybody to know, yes, roster Tank Dell, get excited about the Tank Dell upside. Just don't feel like you have to start him. Now, John says got offered Mixon, Devonta Smith, Cup. I'm sorry, for Cup and Sanders. Cup to Smith, up to you. Sanders versus Mixon and Freiermuth, maybe Mixon. Running backs are Kyron, Javonte, Higgins, Amari, Addison, Dell. Should I take it? I would say if you're 3-0, I'd probably hold on to the long-term upside that you have with Cooper Kupp. If you need a win this week, however, it probably is a very fair price for you to go out there and get Devonta Smith. Yeah, so you definitely want to be looking, Superfish definitely want to be looking at one of those running back deals. I would more so be looking to package one of our running backs with another stud receiver, however, to see if we can go get that. With a receiver like Pickens, so go see if we can get an elite option, not like Lockett. Phenom says Burrow or Russ versus the Bears this week. I'm going to be going with Joe Burrow over Russell Wilson, even though obviously Russ has the nice matchup. Big Boy says 14 team, 2-1, highest scoring team. Trade Higgins and Swift for Walker and Laporta. Swift to Walker, up to you. Probably a slight upgrade. Higgins to Laporta. I would rather have Higgins. We have Kamara, Cousins, Moss, White, Jefferson, DK, Ayuk, and Ferguson. Typically in a 14-team league, that's where I'm going to be a little more willing to go actually out there and punt tight ends. So I personally would hold on to T. Higgins and DeAndre Swift here, my friend. Gabriel says, my man, start 1, Javonte, Ramondre, and Rashad White. We're going to go ahead. We will be, oh my gosh. Do we go White here? It's White or Ramondre Stevenson. It's really going to be up to you between those two guys, but please bench Javonte. I know you're all in on Dell. Like I said, I am fine going through and taking the Tank Dell more than on 3.5 receptions on Underdog. But in terms of calling him a must-start option, I don't know if we can get there yet. Anthony says, is White for Goddard too much? Yes, White for Goddard's too much. We need a better tight end. Shelby says, should be straight Anthony Richardson or Joe Burr. Chase is wide receiver 1. I think long-term, you go Burrow. This week, we go Richardson. I mean, you just don't necessarily know if we have Burrow healthy until we actually see it. Now, Locke says, 10-team at BBR, Puka, Swift, Eckler for Diggs and Pollard. Puka to Diggs, massive upgrade. Eckler to Pollard, probably give me Pollard. So Swift's to get it done. It's a 14-team format, 14-team league. It's going to be a little bit harder. Non-BBR format, though, I actually probably do it, my man. Actually, no, I'm mixing these up. 10-team league, we definitely do it. Just get the studs. And then in the other league, it's a 14-team non-PBR format where we're sending Kittle, White, Waddle for Kelsey, Godwin. It's a fair deal. Obviously, it's tough to be going through and selling 3 pieces for 2 in a 14-team format where depth will be a little bit harder to come by. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 like away from hitting 500 likes on this live stream. If you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on this stream. Help us get to 500. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, I mean, we're live streaming every single day until 2024. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, I mean, one of my favorites, like we said, is going to be Tank Dell for more than 3.5 receptions this Sunday. You can find that link in the live chat, find in the description, find in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, you're going to be getting our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers and a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the New York Jets tomorrow night. Now, Courtney coming out says, full BBR, we need 2 flex. We have Thielen, Swift, Judy, Achane, Hopkins, Gabe Davis, Adam Thielen. Thoughts on David Njoku? Is he a waste of a rush place? Appreciate you as always. Appreciate you, Courtney. If you wanted to hold on to David Njoku, completely fine with it. He is right there on the cutting edge, though. I would say for a 2 flex, you have to start DeAndre Swift. That's really not going to be up for debate. The other spots really go back and forth. I probably go Devon Achane. I mean, I really have no idea what the role is going to be like. I think the floor is extremely low, but also he's a player that just dropped 50 points this past week. So I probably give him the edge. Now, Kindle coming out says 9-team full BBR format where we have Fields, Bijan, Walker, Hill, Olave, Keenan, Ingram. On the bench, we have Puka, Swift, Stevenson, Lockett, Geno. Should we make any changes? Love the content, brother. Appreciate you, my man. I would love to get DeAndre Swift in this lineup if we can, but the issue is we can't. We are loaded here. So, I mean, outside of a trade, if we could send like Puka and Evan Ingram and get an elite level tight ends, or hell, even like DeAndre Swift and Ingram, if we can get to like Kelsey, let's do it. But no, I think we keep this lineup as is. This is the last week you give Justin Fields. And the reason we're even giving him this week is just because it's a great matchup going up against, I mean, a horrendous Denver defense. Now, our next question coming out from Hunter says, should we trade Devonta Smith for Calvin Ridley? I would rather have Smith over Ridley, but it's up to you. They're right there in that same tier. Now, Alex Snodgrass coming out again says, I'm 1-2. Should I go with Burrow or Geno? 6-point passing touchdown format. I'm going to go with Burrow. I'm a little bit more confident now that we've seen that he's off the injury report entirely. In any team recommendations, we have Pollard, Mostert, Jefferson, Puka, Laporta, Walker. The bench is Wilson, Judy, Watson, Sanders, Montgomery. This is a phenomenal team here. I mean, happy BR formats. He holds Montgomery. I think we actually just keep this team as is. The only thing I would do is what you've heard me say a million times by now, so I don't want to focus too much in on it. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say it. But I mean, if we could go ahead and if we could try to get some value out of Puka and get to a wide receiver that we like a little bit more, that'd be interesting. But by no means is that something that we have to do. Logan says Eckler, Dell, Collins for Smith, Kamara, and Pierce. So Eckler versus Smith, give me Eckler. Dell versus Kamara, give me Kamara. Collins versus Pierce, give me Pierce. Very fair deal. I think if you're like 3-0, I could see you going with the Eckler side. Anything else, if you need production now, we go with the package. Colton says flex, Devon Achane, Ford, Javonte, or Garrett Wilson. Super tough spot to be in, my man. I probably end up going with either Ford or Devon Achane, whoever you feel more comfortable about their role. I'm benching Javonte. I'm benching Garrett Wilson. It's going to be down between one of the top 2 running backs for me. Naeem says 12-team full BBR format, single flex. We have Tua, Madison, Kamara, Tyreek, AJ, Andrews. We need to choose one to start at the flex, Hall, Achane, or Dell. Thanks. So thank you, my friend. I think for our flex spot, it's actually going to be easy for me, Devon Achane. I mean, I think Breece Hall arguably is a much better player, but ultimately one of them's playing in a top 3 offense in the NFL in the highest scoring game in the NFL this week, whereas the other one's playing with Zach Wilson. Now, Freddie says 12-team BBR format where we have Hurts, Gibbs, Mixon, Jefferson, Olave, Puka starting. The bench is Richardson, Ayuk, Watson, Mims, Brian Robinson. What moves can we make? I mean, if you really wanted to do something, I would love to go approach the Justin Fields team and go, hey, man, I see that you need a quarterback. Here's Anthony Richardson. Here's Puka. Give me the best wide receiver you can. Do the same thing with the Joe Burrow team. Just essentially try to extract some of this value, if we can, out of Anthony Richardson, considering the fact that we have Jalen Hurts, who we can start every single week. Anthony says, need 2 for the flex. PBR, we have Palmer, Thomas, Nico, and DJ Moore. Thanks, Mason. No, thank you, my man. We're going to go Michael Thomas and DJ Moore. I think that DJ Moore has a great matchup. Palmer's in a better situation with the offense that he's in. I would rather just wait a week with Palmer, though, and see what the actual workload's going to look like with no Williams. Zach says Tua or Kirk. We're to go with, oh my gosh, a great spot for both players. Kirk Cousins been the #1 scoring player so far this season. I'm going to go with Tua, however, just given the fact I think the game's higher scoring. And then Pickens, Ford, or Palmer, full PPR league. Probably going to go ahead. We will take the running back in Jerome Ford. The backup guy would be George Pickens if you really didn't want to. The digital print house coming out saying 1-3 full PPR 14 team formats. We start 3 wide receivers, 1 flex. We have Lawrence, CMC, Pollard, Kamara, Roschon, Hunt, Bigsby, St. Brown, Ayuk, Elijah Moore, Dotson, Burks, Laporta, Musgrave. Any moves, or should we just chill? Specifically in a format like this, depth is going to matter significantly more than it otherwise would. So I'm fine with us rostering these deeper wide receivers. I'm fine with us rostering 2 tight ends as well, with waiver wire options being worse. We're sitting with CMC, Pollard, Kamara that we can start every single week. I think it's a great team. Really, the only thing is we just need Trevor Lawrence to come back and give us some better production, which I think we do get a Lawrence bounce back. Now, Chris says 1-2 and need a win. Start a quarterback in a flex PPR. Do we start Lamar versus Cleveland or Anthony Richardson? We're going to go Lamar, even if it's a very tough matchup. And then for the flex, we're going to go Kirk, Zay, or Zach Moss. We're also starting Pittman. We're for sure going to go Zach Moss, just getting a running back that's getting every single touch, every single snap out of his backfield. Anonymous says, met 1 flex, Myers or Kelly. Kelly's killing me. Full BBR format. If you wanted to go Jacoby Myers, I'm not going to fault you whatsoever. Non-PBR league, now that you have no Jimmy Garoppolo, you may have to go Joshua Kelly. Obviously, it'd be much easier if Jimmy G was playing. But Britton coming out says 12-team PBR, we're 3-0. We have Fields, Adams, Watson, DK, Moss, Javonte. The flex is DJ Moore. We had Dobbins, Chubb, Jamal. So the running back depth is poor. Any traits? So ultimately, we're 3-0. We actually have the timeline where we can go through and sort this out. It's not like we're overloaded with wide receiver production. We don't even have a great quarterback. So in reality, I don't think this is a team where we could afford to go out there and trade for an upgraded running back. In reality, I think we're going to be in a situation where we more so want to go through and just work the waiver wire over the next few weeks. And we have that kind of luxury considering the fact we started off 3-0. Benjamin says 12-team PBR with 1 flex. Thoughts on the trade, giving Montgomery, Metcalf, Henry for St. Brown and Travis Etienne. Derrick Henry to Etienne, definite upgrade. David Montgomery, DK Metcalf over to Amon-Ra St. Brown, full PBR format, single flex. I'm completely fine with this deal. This would be one of those leagues where if it was a deeper starting lineup overall and depth mattered more, then I probably would say keep the 3 players. But here, I think it makes sense to go get the 2. Now, Eric says 12-team PBR, 3 receivers and a flex. We have Hill, Olave, Amari, Ayuk, Dell, Elijah, Javonte, Mixon, Zach Moss. Looking to package for Bijan. Any ideas? If we were looking for that Bijan package, I would love to see if we could go through and send like Chris Olave and Zach Moss and go get Bijan Robinson. Or if you wanted to send Amari Cooper and Joe Mixon, I mean, Javonte Williams and Brandon Ayuk, Javonte Williams and Amari Cooper, Brandon Ayuk and Javonte, Amari and Javonte, Mixon and Amari, really any combination of those guys. If you wanted to move up to like the great wide receivers and get real aggressive with it, it would be like Chris Olave and Zach Moss. And you still probably are going to get rejected. Just heads up, still probably going to get rejected. But Pew Pew coming out says 12-team double flex. We're 2-1. We have Fields, Pollard from a Mostert Sutton trade. Great trade again. Etienne, Diggs, Puka, Ingram, Devon Achane, Stevenson. On the bench, we have Daniel Jones, Gus Edwards, Zach Charbonnet, Dotson, Cup. Any moves? Love the streams. Keep it up, Mason. Really appreciate you, my man. And honestly, no, I don't think we make any moves from this point. I mean, I think that the really only thing we have to do is wait until we get Cooper Kupp back in here. I'm fine if we wanted to hold on to, Puka. I'm sure you've already tried to go out there and see if we could get one of those wide receivers we always talk about for him. And then I think really we're just on high alert this week. We want to see what we get from Justin Fields. This is his one shot, right? You're going up against this Denver defense. If he finally puts it together and at least gives us some rushing upside, then maybe we can look to hold on to him. Okay. But I actually have to scroll back up to find where we were. So give me 1 second. And as I do this, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, you're going to be getting our updated rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And you'll be getting a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard against the New York Jets this Sunday night. But Joseph says 10-team PBR format where we have Hurts, CMC, Mostert, Kelsey, Keenan, St. Brown, Zach Moss. On the bench, we have Pickens, Ford, Dell, Shaheed, Deontay. Should we try trading for Waddle? I mean, if we can get a reasonable price tag, if you could go Zach Moss and George Pickens, or George Pickens and Jerome Ford, or Tank Dell and Ford, Tank Dell and Zach Moss, if we can make one of those trades work, I would love to go get Waddle if we can, my friend. Great team. You'd also start Geno or Fields. We're going to go Fields in a 4-point passing touchdown format. If it's a 6-point passing touchdown format, you could go Geno. And then DK or Kyron at the flex. We're definitely going to go Kyron Williams at the flex. Just get the running back that's getting every single touch in his backfield. Now, our next question coming out from Dread Chapo. Happy to see you, my man. Says full BBR, Downs, Wilson, Rashid, or Quentin Johnson. We will go Garrett Wilson, even if it's a gross spot. Brady says, for the flex, we're going to go Nico Collins or Zach Moss. This will be Zach Moss, and it's not really going to be that close, my friend. Siraj has scored over 100 points the past 2 out of 3 weeks. Or less than, I mean, assuming you mean over then. Do I need to make a trade or let it ride? We have Richardson, Higgins, Puka, CMC, Cook, Andrews, Pacheco. And then on the bench, we have Watson, JSN, Stroud, and Jalen Warren. So in terms of making a trade, I don't necessarily see one that would make a lot of sense for us here. I mean, if you really wanted to make one, you could go through and you could see if we can get an upgrade at the flex over Isaiah Pacheco. The issue that you have with this is like, I don't know, what's the piece that we can move with Pacheco to go get that upgrade, you know? I don't see one. I don't think anybody's, I want to hold on to Watson. I want to hold on to JSN for the long term. I don't think anybody's going to give us a massive, massive piece for Jalen Warren. So then we actually let it ride from here, my friend. And thank you so much for being a long-time member of the flock. I wish I had more for you. Shari says, inspiring work ethic, bro. Thank you, my man. Question is, HN against the Bills or Brian Robinson against the Eagles? Both have horrendous matchups, right? So both have really bad matchups. I'm probably going to go with the guy that has the guaranteed volume in Brian Robinson. I mean, it's a very tough spot. The Bills and the Eagles' run defenses are like the toughest rush defenses in the entire NFL. At least with Brian Robinson, though, you know he's going to get the majority of the work. I'm a flocker. Happy to see you. Says a full BBR flex. Mostert, Godwin, Thomas, Pierce, Thielen, Palmer, Kelly. We're to be going with Raheem Mostert here. Then pick 3 full BBR format between Najee, Flowers, Addison, Hopkins, Palmer, Sky, Kelly, and Devon Achane. We're probably going to go with Devon Achane. And then honestly, if it's a full BBR format, probably the receivers in Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers. These are rookies that we've seen consistently expanding their overall roles. And in the case of Zay Flowers, he does have a tough matchup, but he has, I mean, a great spot with no Rashad Bateman and with no Odell Beckham Jr. in his offense. Ms. Rose says, Pittman or Ridley this week? We're going to go ahead and we will start Calvin Ridley over Michael Pittman. Mike says traded Lawrence, Diggs, Pickens for Lamar and Tyreek. Lawrence to Lamar upgrade. Diggs and Pickens to Tyreek upgrade. Love it, my friend. 3-0 team where we add Lawrence, Pollard, James Cook. Yeah, that's a no-brainer, especially if we have that kind of wide receiver depth. We're sending Pickens. Doesn't really negatively impact us too much. Thomas says thoughts on Jalen Warren and Gibbs rest of season. Could Jalen Warren overtake? Also, hopefully 1-3 after this week. Running backs are Walker, Charbonnet, Kyron, Warren, Gibbs. Is Gibbs okay for me? 1-3 is going to be a tough spot. I mean, if you're looking at Gibbs, non-BBR format, he's a sell. Half BBR format, he is a hold. Full BBR format, if you can wait for the long-term upside, I think that he is a buy. 1-3, obviously, it's a much, much tougher spot, though, because we don't know if we can afford to wait for the long term. Like, that's the thing. I mean, we can start Kyron Williams for now, for damn sure, though. And with Warren, he is expanding his role in Pittsburgh, but he kind of remains just like a desperation play outside of if Najee Harris were to go down. If Najee Harris were to go down, then obviously he's a great start. Muhammad coming out says 12-team PPR double flex, 8 bench. We have Watson, Love, Young, Javonte, Moss, JT, Charbonnet, AJ, Chase, Waddle, Olave, Amari, JSN, Zay, Palmer, Downs, Ingram, Everett. Should we upgrade? I will say definitely go through and try to upgrade at tight end if we can. Like if you can take like Amari Cooper and Evan Ingram and go get a player like Mark Andrews, I think we would do that in an 8-team league. I would say also you shouldn't be rostering 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends here. Probably want a few more extra running backs on the bench that we think have upside. Okay. Now our next question coming up from James says, Mahomes, Ridley, Waddle, CMC, Walker, Hawkinson, Moss, JT, Godwin, Watson, Roschon, Warren, Johnston. 10-team league, 2-1. Do we stay put? Well, my man, really hope you're having a great weekend. Really appreciate all the support over the years. You know it, my man. And honestly, I think it's a great squad. We have Moss in the short term. We have JT in the long term. We have wide receiver depth. I think Watson and Godwin will be much better going forward. I mean, we have a nice construction of this team with the elite quarterback, the elite tight ends, and focusing on running backs with upside down on the bench. So I think we stay put. I think you're in a great spot, my man. I hope you have a great weekend too. Anto says, have BBR 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 flex. So depth actually matters. 4 Devon Achane, Lamb, AJ Brown, St. Brown, Dell, Pacheco, Watson, Hopkins, Rojo, JT, AJ Brown, Ford. Rojo for Diggs, Ridley. I don't know where it ends. Want to move Ford, Pacheco, Rojo. What are your suggestions? Where does the trade begin? Is it AJ Brown, Ford, and Rojo? For Diggs and Ridley? AJ Brown to Diggs, upgrade. Ford and Roschon Johnson for Ridley? Yes, I would do this. I would do this. Assuming that I'm reading this correctly, I'll highlight what I believe the deal to be. Just so we're on the same page. If this is the trade, yes, we do it, my man. But with no commas, with nothing there, it is very difficult to know if that's the trade or not. Landoff says, who should we take for Travis Kelce? We need a receiver and a running back. Here are the wide receivers I would trade Travis Kelce for straight up. Jefferson, Tyreek, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase. Here are the running backs I would. CMC, Bijan, Tony Pollard. Very short list of players that I would rather have over Travis Kelce, even if we need a running back or receiver. K3 says I'm 1-2 in a 12-team full BBR format where we have Herbert, Ford, Pierce, AJ Brown, Sutton, Waller, McLaurin. We had Nick Chubb on the bench, JT, Collins, Dobbs, Achane. Any moves in mind? Nothing for now. I think when we get JT back, then at that point we can make a 2-for-1 deal to try to upgrade there at RB2. But we're going to have to wait until we get Jonathan Taylor back. Now, Vader does TCG says, 10-team full BBR, 10-team flex. Who do we start, Kelly or Judy? Full BBR format, I'm going to go Jerry Judy over Joshua Kelly. I'm not telling anybody to play Joshua Kelly. I'm not doing it. Rick Stiles says, PBR, hurting at running back, trade Devonta Smith for Ford and Waddle. I think Waddle and Smith are in the same tier. So, yeah, if you're hurting at running back, I'd be fine doing this. Dominic says, 16-team BBR format, 0-3. We have Allen, Chase, Gibbs, Moss, Hawk, Kirk, Ford, Watson, Bourne, Downs, Latavius, Ertz. What are we looking to do? 0-3 team, we're looking to trade some long-term upside for some short-term production. So this would be one of those teams where it kind of sucks, and I hate to say it, but we probably do end up having to go through and sell Jahmyr Gibbs just for some points in this lineup ASAP, right? So we really can't afford to fall to like 0-5 here. But the credit genius, always happy to see you, my man. Says, hey, Mason, 2 quarterback Superflex Dynasty League, full BBR. Would you trade DJ Moore for Adam Thielen in a future first? Hell yeah, I'd rather have the future first over DJ Moore straight up. Adam Thielen, DJ Moore, similar points per game rest of season, not too far off. Go get that first round pick. A no-brainer move, my man. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we are 2 likes away from hitting 600 likes on this live stream. If you have not done so already, please go down there, hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. And also, if you have not done so already, subscribe to the channel. We are live streaming every single day until 2024. And if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Patrick Mahomes special pickup more than less than half a total yard. And John actually asking something that rolls right into this. Asking to flex Tank Dell, Palmer, or Adam Thielen. I'm going to go Tank Dell, my man, over these guys. And a side note, you can go Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, Tank Dell, up to you. Honestly, they're all very close. But Tank Dell is one of my favorite pick'ems as well. More than 3.5 receptions on Underdog this week. Now, our next question coming out from Douglas says, flex Tutu, Ayuk, Gabe Davis, or Christian Kirk. We're for sure going to go Brandon Ayuk now that he's good to go, and possibly Deebo Samuel's not. Now, More Than You coming out says, choose one for the flex, Madison or Nico Collins. We're going to go Alexander Madison. Bruce says, 8-team full BBR format. We have Lamar, Jacobs, Etienne, Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Waddle. Should I trade up a bit or should we sit back and chill? 8-team league, if you could somehow get to Kelsey, if we could go like Waddle and Laporta and go get Travis Kelsey, then hell yeah, we would do it. But, a great team. You could definitely afford to just chill if you wanted to. Shelby says, have BBR start to Saquon, Javonte, Kyron, or Roshan. We're going to go Kyron and Javonte because it looks like Saquon most likely will not be playing, my friend. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Hakimi says, I'm in an 8-team league in desperate need of a win. For the flex, you're going to go Ford, A-Chain, or Dell. Thanks. Thanks for your content. I've won 3 years. Thanks. Appreciate you so much, my friend. We are going to go ahead. We probably end up starting Jerome Ford. I think he probably has a little bit of a lower ceiling than these other guys, but he probably just has a higher floor with his guaranteed workload, right? At least that's what I'm assuming at this moment. Okay, now. Sorry, give me a second to find where we were, ladies and gentlemen. This next one going to be coming out from Joseph says, 10-team BBR, we have Mahomes, Connor, Sanders, Hill, DK, Hawkinson, Ridley. JT, Cup, Pierce, Thielen, Lockett. Should we trade up for a running back one in any ideas? If you really wanted to, you could see if we could send like Tyler Lockett and James Conner to go get a stud RB. I think that would be very interesting. Definitely not something that we have to do though, right? You have JT and Cup coming back in. This team's already strong as is. Once you get JT and Cup back in, it's going to be dominant. Matt says full BBR Jacobs and Lockett or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh my gosh. I think we go St. Brown in a full PBR format. That's close though. Nick says, should we trade Aaron Jones and Evans for ETN? I'm 3-0. If it is a 10-team format, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, I'm fine going through and making this deal for the best player. However, anything deeper, it's probably hard to make this trade. Now, the Credit Genius says also full BBR start 2 in a flex. Who are we going with? Evans, Debo, Puka, Myers, Palmer. Thank you, brother. You're the best fantasy streamer out here. Appreciate you, my man. We're going to be going with, honestly, I think you have to bench Myers in this range, considering the fact that you have no Jimmy G. Palmer, we don't know exactly what the workload's going to look like. We just haven't seen it so far this season. So I think you have to go with Evans, Debo, and Puka. I don't think we think about this one too much. I think you go those 3 guys relatively easily. Now, money on my mind says Evans, Nico Collins, and Puka Nacua. We got to start 2. We're going to go with Evans and Puka. Next week we can maybe reevaluate if you have Cooper Kupp back in. Lucas says PBR Rashad White or Miles Sanders or Chuba if Sanders doesn't play. Full BBR format, we're going to be going with Rashad White regardless because this is a running back that obviously does have the receiving role. Ron Burgundy, always happy to see you, says Mason, pick 2 out of 3, bro. Waddle, Myers, Higgins. Thanks. So thank you. We are going to go with Waddle and Higgins. I'm just not that excited about Myers with no Jimmy Garoppolo. It's hard to know how good this offense will be. And I'm not worried about the Adams production, but probably worried about the RB2 production there. Now, Trent says, 10-team BBR format. We have Lawrence, Pollard, Madison, Ridley, Olave, Hawkinson. The bench, we have Watson, Javonte, Brian Robinson, Gabe Davis, Miles Sanders, and Kupp on the IR. Any moves? I would love to get an upgrade at running back too. I'm not certain that you're going to have Alexander Mattison as a viable guy going forward if Akers splits this backfield. So if we could potentially go through and trade, say, Alexander Mattison and one of these depth pieces, whether that's another running back like Brian Robinson or maybe hell, if that's Jamison Williams down there, Jamison Williams, and go get a long-term upgrade at running back, I think we'd really like that. Okay. Benjamin says, PBR, who to flex, Kelly, Palmer, Algier, or JSN? I hate to say it, we go Joshua Kelly. In that range, we go Kelly, assuming you have no Eckler. But, I mean, I've started Kelly multiple times now, and I want to be on record saying it's not a nice spot. Now, Brendan says, PBR 6-point touchdown. Start Ridley or Dell at the flex. We're going to go Ridley, not think twice. Now, Justin says, redraft, half PBR format. Trade Kyron Williams for Raheem Mostert. I probably don't. I'd probably keep Kyron Williams, just knowing that with Mostert, you already see Devon Achane having a larger role in this offense. Not than Mostert, but just in general. And with Kyron Williams, you have no other running back. Plus, you're going to get Jeff Wilson Jr. back in a few weeks. Or next week. Sam says, PBR 1 flex. Palmer, Brian Robinson, Pierce, or Devon Achane. I think both Robinson and Achane have very, very tough matchups. So I'll go with the running back that has the guaranteed volume. I will go ahead and I will take Brian Robinson. Super tough matchup, though. Now, Boa Spam says, PBR 3-0. I want to play aggressive. Should we start Breida, Jacobs, or Joshua Kelly? I'm going to go with Jacobs for damn sure. Between Breida, Joshua Kelly, I think they're very similar spots. If Barkley is not officially ruled out by the time that we have to make this call, it's going to be up to you between, I may go Joshua Kelly. If Barkley, I'm definitely go Kelly if Barkley is not officially ruled out. If Barkley is officially ruled out by the time we have to make that decision, it will be up to you between Matt Breida and Joshua Kelly. Play Jacobs no matter what, though. Mike says, start 4 receivers. We have Adams, Debo, DK, Gabe Davis, Tank Dell, Tutu Atwell, Myers. Happy BR League probably should trade one of these as well. We're going to go Adams, Debo, DK. And then honestly, if we're going with the ceiling, we're going to go Gabe Davis. If you want to go with the floor, we're going to go with Tank Dell. I like Myers in the long term once we get Jimmy G back in. I'll say we probably want to go through, if we were going to trade one of these guys, though, Tutu Atwell would be the trade before we get Cooper Kupp back in here. Because I don't think Atwell is going to be viable when Kupp is in. Now, VK says 10-team double flex full BBR league. Trade Montgomery and Myers for Waddle and Justice Hill. Give me Waddle over Montgomery for sure in a full BBR format. Myers versus Hill. I would rather have Myers. I think it's a very fair deal. Up to you, my friend. Thomas says better stash rest of season. Warren Bigsby or Tajee Spears. I think it's Jalen Warren. I mean, Jalen Warren right now is seeing 50% of the backfield in Pittsburgh. Zachary says non-BBR format. We have Tua, Bijan, Kyron Williams, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Puka, Hunter Henry, and then on the bench we have Pierce, Swift, Algier, Goddard, Olave, London. 0-3 lineup. Any traits? 0-3, we're beginning to think like, okay, we need points here immediately, not in the long term. So like down on the bench, I mean, having Swift, Olave, like these great pieces. I think you have to go through and you have to take like Chris Olave and Hunter Henry and go out there and get a Travis Kelce level player. I think you have to go get that elite level tight end if you can. Now, Javier coming out says 12-team full BBR format. We have Hurts, Kyron, Moss, Chase, Hollywood, Taysom, Thielen. Where should we look to upgrade and for who? On the bench, we have Dobbs, Tutu, and DJ Moore. I would love to upgrade over the flex. If we can take the production that we've had as of late from, actually, no, you got to get a better tight end, my man. You're starting freaking Taysom Hill. Are you kidding me? Trade Tutu Atwell and Taysom Hill and get literally any viable tight end. Even if it's just someone like say, I don't know, even if it's just Dallas Goedert. Matthew says, should I take this trade? I give Bijan, Higgins, Puka for Moss, Madison, and Jamar. So Bijan to Chase, really up to you. Higgins to Alexander Madison, clear downgrade. Puka to Zach Moss, I mean, I'd maybe rather have, it's super close there. Super close there. So honestly, I probably would rather have the Bijan and Higgins side, but you know I am very biased Hookaborn, so it's hard to ask me about a Bijan Robinson trade and me give a reasonable answer. Now, Sir Radiator says, starting Judy or Myers in the flex this week. Congrats on 200K. Thank you so much, my friend. I think you're definitely going to go with Jerry Judy over Jacoby Myers in the flex now that you have no Jimmy G. Charlie says, Puka, James Cook, Moss, Kyron, full BBR. We got to start too. We're going to be going with Moss and Kyron Williams. These are running backs seeing 100% of the looks in their respective backfields. Obviously, next week, this could be a very different answer. 20 says, 12-team BBR format, Terry or Gabe. Sam Howell looks very bad. Yes. I mean, I think that Terry maybe gives you a little bit of a higher floor in terms of his target volume. But ultimately, if you wanted to go with the player that you believe to have the highest ceiling, especially in this matchup, I think you could go ahead and take Gabe Davis here, my man. I mean, it should be the highest scoring game of the week. Now, Ricardo says, one running back, one flex. We have Pierce, Kelly, Roshan, Judy, Dell, and Zay Flowers. Running back, we're going to be going with Pierce. Flex, we will be going with Zay Flowers. Like, Zay Flowers is going to be the guy that I'm most interested to know how this plays out this week, just because it's like you get the opportunity, but you also get the worst matchup you could possibly find. Now, the LSU Ole Miss game, 5 seconds left. LSU drives down by 6. Back-to-back. Oh, my gosh. LSU blew the game with false starts. Back-to-back false starts, getting thrown back 10 yards. I mean, they were on like what were they on? Maybe on the 12 or something. Now getting pushed back to like, no, they're on like the 16, and after a couple false starts, getting pushed back down to like the 26. Like, there's no way they get this. Like, RIP LSU. But Tyler coming out says, 10-team BBR. We have Swift, Madison, Devonta Smith. Who should we start in the flex? I mean, full BBR format, I go Smith. Non-PBR league, we'd probably go Swift. I just traded St. Brown and Madison for Olave and Mixon. What are your thoughts? St. Brown to Olave, downgrade. Madison to Mixon, clear upgrade. I think it's a fair deal, up to you. But yeah, definitely not considering Alexander Madison in the same tier as like DeAndre Swift right now. Now, Eddie Boyce has traded Swift and Evans for Jefferson and Jonathan Taylor. Oh my gosh, phenomenal move. We're 3-0. Oh my gosh, crushing them. And yeah, thank you so much for being a long-time member of the flock, my man. You know I appreciate you, but yeah, you just robbed that man. AJ says, 2-1 full BBR format where we have Lawrence, Swift, Mostert, Devon Achane, Jefferson, AJ Brown, Andrews, Kirk, Watson. Got an offer for Goddard and Cup for AJ and Andrews. What are your thoughts? AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, probably give me AJ Brown. Andrews versus Goddard, definitely give me Andrews. I think the receivers are in a similar range, but you definitely have to be going with the Andrews side. Thomas says, I have Kyler stashed on the IR. Could be relevant. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that Kyler is a decent IR stash. Yeah, Ole Miss wins. That was a great game. It's one of the best games I've seen all year. Now, Cheeto coming out says, half PPR. Would you trade Mostert? Oh, this is the lamest thing ever. Let me ask all this real quick in the live chat. Is it just me, or do they storm the field after every college game? Seems like after every game, the field gets stormed now. Like whenever it's in college, just never happened. And I feel like you can storm the fields maybe once a year. Says Durant says every game, rinse and repeat, says it's just you. Let me know in the live chat. What do you think about people storming games? It seems like it's going a little bit overboard. Seems like it's like not safe either. Like, the players are out there. We know fans are freaking crazy. Twinny says, Texas too good to storm. We weren't too good when I was there, I'll tell you that much. I mean, I think you get one a year. I think you get one a year. Okay. But going back to where we were, I apologize for getting us off track a bit. Cheeto says, have BBR, would you trade Mostert, Ramondre, and Gabe Davis for Bijan Javonte or Zay and Flowers? So going from, say, Mostert to Javonte, downgrade. But from Ramondre, Gabe Davis to Bijan Robinson, massive, massive upgrade there, my friend. So yeah, I think 100% you need to go through and you need to take Bijan Robinson. Of course, with that being said, hook 'em Lawrence, I'm probably not the best guy to ask, but yeah, I think we go Bijan. Josh says, 10-team full PBR format. We have Anthony Richardson, Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, CMC, Stevenson, Kelsey, Ridley, Watson, DJ Moore, Hopkins, Sanders, Christian Watson. 2-1 any tips. Team will be much better now that we have Anthony Richardson good to go. Phenomenal running backs, great receivers, and elite tight ends. No tips on this team. The only thing I'd say is if we can make a 2-for-1 deal, possibly get an improvement in the flex spot, then we would go ahead and do it. But I mean, great team as is, my friend. Now, Harsh Patel says, PBR for the flex, Bateman, Pirine, or Wan'Dale Robinson. Bateman's not going to play this week. We are going to go Pirine over Wan'Dale, even though I hope Wan'Dale does great, because we drafted him in a ton of underdog best ball drafts. The Credit Genius coming out says, full BBR start 2 receivers in a flex. We have Higgins, Kirk, DJ, Kamara, Pierce. We're going to go Kamara in the flex. Our receivers, we're going to go Kirk and Higgins. Second league, start 2 receivers between Evans, Higgins, or Flowers once again in another level. Mason, I appreciate you. We are going to go Evans and Higgins. Flowers is in an interesting spot with no Bateman, with no Odell. But Higgins does have a great matchup going up against Tennessee. He does. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, the Chase, who says, 0-3, we need some help. It's a 12-team full BBR format where we have Burrow, Pollard, Stevenson, Chase, Evans, Goddard, Kyron in the flex. On the bench, we have Wilson, Hollywood, Devon Achane, Dotson, Ertz. I feel like we should be doing better. I mean, I think this team will be better going forward. I mean, it's easy to understand why the team has struggled so far. I mean, my man, you have the Burrow Chase stack and Burrow got injured, right? So if you have the Burrow Chase stack, whenever this team goes out there and is an elite level offense, then we should be really exciting. I mean, we should be really excited. But I don't know. I think it will get better. Burrow was off the injury report, which is some positive news, right? I don't know, my man. I'm sorry. I don't know. Hopefully it's better. Charlie says we have Richardson, Barkley, Kyron, Moss, James Cook, AJ, Metcalf, Puka, London, Andrews. We have too much running back depth. What moves are we going to look to make? If we could sell Zach Moss, this is the guy I'm looking to get rid of. If we could go Zach Moss and Puka and get a great wide receiver for the long term, if we have too much running back depth, I'm going to be trying to sell someone that has a limited shelf life. Zach Moss is crushing it right now. But if JT comes back and they don't trade him, then at that point, Zach Moss is legitimately nothing. So if we can go get an elite receiver by trading away Zach Moss and Puka on a team where we don't need running back production in the short term, I think that would make a lot of sense, my friend. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from Mild Flame says, play DJ Moore or Evans this week. DJ Moore is the much better matchup, but no, we're going to go Mike Evans. We're going to go Evans. Now, Chris says, have BBR need a flex or a tight end on the bench. We have Judy, Myers, Elijah, Waller, Parham. For the love of God, do not start Donald Parham. You're going to go with Darren Waller. And then for our flex, we're going to be going with Jerry Jeudy, especially with no Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense, my friend. Nathan says, big one for the flex, Dotson, Mims, Dalvin, or Sky Moore. Oh my gosh. Can everybody spam the chat? Who would you go with in the flex here? Let me know. Are you going to go Jahan Dotson, Marvin Mims, Dalvin Cook, or Elijah Moore? Or Sky Moore, I apologize, Sky Moore. Mims has been the best out of this list as of late, but keep in mind, he really runs like 20% of the routes in Denver. The man's not a full-time player. Mims, Moore, Cook. More Mims. Mims. More Mims. Mims, more. It looks like it's split about 50-50 between Moore and Mims. So if those are the two guys that I would be picking from, I would go Sky Moore over Marvin Mims. If you are looking at what we have with Marvin Mims, he's been great from a per snap perspective, but he's just not a full-time player like we were saying. Now, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we are 4 likes away from hitting 700 likes on this live stream, and we're only a few viewers away from 1,000 people out here. So please, if you have not done so already, go down there, help us out, hit that like button. We have live streamed every single day for 155 days in a row. Not going to stop until 2024. And of course, if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 on Underdog Fantasy. Plus, you're going to be getting our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, you'll be getting a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, less than half a total yard going up against the New York Jets tomorrow. But Jaron, always happy to see you, my man, says 12-team full BBR format. We need a flex. We have Gainwell, Charbonnet, Quentin Johnson, JSN. Who do we start? And I appreciate you. You're the GOAT. Everyone drop a like and sub. Appreciate you, my man. I'm actually in a full BBR format. Probably going to go ahead and play Quentin Johnston. Full transparency, this is the first time that I've told anybody to play Quentin Johnston all year. But I think that you could potentially make an argument for it out of these guys. Salvador says London, Myers, or Downs. Myers is less appealing now that we have no Jimmy G. I still probably go with them. GK, always happy to see it, says Daniel Jones or CJ Stroud. PBR minus a point per incompletion and then also point per carry. If we're going to get a point per carry, you have to go Daniel Jones. I mean, going into last week, before the 49ers game, Daniel Jones was leading the NFL in rushing yards at the quarterback position. And then also it's a much better matchup that you have here. And then Ferguson or Frymuth, thank you, Mason. No, thank you, my man. If you look at our tight end rankings, I mean, we have Ferguson and Frymuth ranked literally back-to-back at 12 and 13. I do think it's up to you. If you ask me this question 1,000 times, I give you 500 answers one way, 500 answers the other way. I mean, we had Ferguson ranked higher whenever we made the list a couple days ago, though. Now, Jacob says 1 and 2 full BBR format. We have Saquon, Kyron, Sanders, Devon Achane, Charbonnet, and Jalen Warren at running back with Wilson, Ridley, Pickens, Jameson, JSN at receiver, Andrews, Fields, and Love. Do I trade some of this running back depth? I would say for now, we are going to sit on our hands, and for now, we are not going to make any moves. Until we get Saquon Barkley back with this team, this is actually running back depth that we need. This is running back depth that we're going to be holding on to. I think long-term, if you would like 100%, you could take advantage and you can sell some of this depth to see if we can get an upgrade in the starting lineup. Just not something we're looking to do right now. Now, Russ says, have BBR1 flex, White, Collins, Dell, or Garrett Wilson. We will go ahead and we will take Rashad White here, my friend. Alex says, James Conner or Dameon Pierce. We're going to go James Conner, even in a very tough matchup. I mean, hell, both these guys have tough matchups. And then also 2 out of Ayuk, Thielen, and Amari. We're going to go Ayuk and Amari. I know Adam Thielen was phenomenal this past week, but also they almost had 60 passing attempts in Carolina. I don't know if that's going to be the case every week going forward. Now, I believe our next question coming out from Brody, who says, let me just double check. Looks like we're all caught up on questions. This one says, full BBR, 4-point passing touchdown, 6 points pick. Pick 4, we have AJ, Ridley, Higgins, Pittman, Dell, Thielen, Richardson, or Justin Herbert without Mike. We will still go ahead and we'll take Justin Herbert, especially in a plus matchup. We're going to go A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman, and then we will go T. Higgins. I know Dell. I know that, yes, Thielen were both better this next week, but I don't know. It's so hard to all of a sudden go, oh, yeah, start freaking Tank Dell over T. Higgins when Higgins has a great matchup. Tio, happy to see you. My man says, need to play 2 running backs in a flex in a 10-team league. Choices are Kyron, James Conner, Devon Achane, Brian Robinson, Rashad White, George Pickens, and Terry McLaurin. So our 2 running backs are going to be Kyron Williams and James Conner. And then our flex, we're going to be going with Rashad White. I just think that we take the 3 running backs that are getting every single touch in their respective backfields, my friend. But looks like we are all cut up on Super Chat. So if you have a Super Chat question that you want me to answer, please get that in over the next few minutes. Afterwards, I'm going to be turning the chat to members only. And Evan says, David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs, rest of season. Can everybody spam the chat? What would you rather have rest of season? Are you going to go David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs? Please let me know in the live chat ASAP. And you know what we can do instead is I can still prioritize answering members' questions and leave super chats on. We can still do that. Looks like everybody in the chat saying Jacobs here, my man. Jacobs. We have a few David Montgomerys mixed in, but seems like the vast majority are Josh Jacobs. Now, Tyler says, PBR, do we start Matt Breida, Roschon Johnson, or Tyler Algier? Or Jalen Warren? If Saquon Barkley is officially ruled out by the time we get to make this call, we go Matt Breida. If Saquon Barkley has not been ruled out at that point, then we will go ahead and instead we are going to be taking Jalen Warren. Really does depend there, my friend. Okay. Now, Joseph says, have BBR where we have Mahomes, Bijan, Etienne, Keenan, Puka, Pitts, James Cook, Swift, McLaurin, Addison, Michael Thomas, Elijah Moore, Jalen Warren, Gus Edwards. Any traits? Great team here, my man. I mean, we do have enough depth where if you really wanted to go ahead and see if we could send like Michael Thomas and Kyle Pitts and go get a great tight end. If you can go get Mark Andrews, let's do it. I mean, we do that easily. Obviously, much easier said than done, though. Much easier said than done. Okay. Thomas says, 10-team BBR. Tight ends are Ingram and Kincaid. Are we going to go Kincaid or Ferguson? Are you telling me rest of season? Like if we're going for upside here, we will go with... We will go Dalton Kincaid for upside rest of season. Jay Spike says, full BBR pick 2, Ridley, Tutu, or Tank Dell. We're going to be going with Calvin Ridley and Tank. You have to play Calvin Ridley. You can't have any other thoughts here. Calvin Ridley is someone that you must start. Tutu, Dell, kind of up to you. I probably do end up going with Tank Dell. But let me close the door real quick. And if anybody's a member here and has any questions, please let me know in the live chat ASAP. Are you okay? Are you okay? And then y'all can see the lady here. Do you want to say hi to everybody? You say hi. Come here, my little girl. I know. Come here. Say, hey, everybody. What y'all doing? What y'all doing in here? You having a good Friday night or Saturday night, whenever it is? I know. Say, I'm having a good night. We may get in the live stream early and go on a walk, right? Are you looking at the microphone? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I know. You're a good girl. Okay. Now, Moses coming out says 1 running back, 1 flex. We have Breece, Gus, Dotson, Elijah, and Tajee Spears. I think we're going to go ahead and for the RB spot, we're going to have to play Breece Hall even if we don't want to. And for the flex, we'll go John. Oh my gosh. For the flex, we'll go John Dotson with the Watson injury. That is disgusting, though, my man. Gregory says, trade Jahan Dotson and Justice Hill for Jonathan Taylor. I will take Jonathan Taylor here. But you know what? We're going to have to wake up at like 7 in the morning to go through and live stream for 5 hours tomorrow. So we'll cut ourselves some slack. We'll cut the live stream at 2 hours today. So, yeah, I will be live again tomorrow at 7 in the morning. So please Make sure if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, get our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, a Patrick Mahomes special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the New York Jets on tomorrow. So please make sure you take advantage. I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much. Really do appreciate you and really hope that we get to see you out in the live stream tomorrow morning.